We are live in cryptocurrency investing in front of almost 45,000 people. What's up, everybody?
Hey guys.
Most of you already know me, Jason. Maybe we can just go around the table and tell everybody who you are. And of course, we have two awesome guests today from the Crypto20 team, which everybody in the group knows I'm a huge fan of. So, and of course, Meredith, our newest employee.
Hey y'all.
All right, so
Hi guys, I'm Matthew from Crypto20.
Hi, I'm Luke. We were really dedicated to come and speak to you guys. It's currently 4:15. We're still in the office. This is how we put together these great products. We're here until 6 a.m.
Little pitch. Yeah, I've been on the Facebook group for a while now. I think you added me, Jason. I've been pretty impressed with the level of content and especially the admin level that you were pointing out and how it's specifically focused on actually having like insights and discussion being driven around actual facts as opposed to a lot of what goes on in the crypto space, which I think is pretty harmful.
yeah, definitely. I mean, we do our best. We have a couple dozen moderators, and we try to, like we discussed earlier, we try to keep it fair yet curated to the point where, the room isn't flooded with repeat posts, and we try to educate people. That's all. We don't want people making poor choices, so we try to spread as much positive, accurate news as possible. So I'm glad you guys are a part of it, and I'm definitely stoked that you guys are in this meeting. So Matthew, I know you're like on the technical side of things for your team. Is that right?
Yeah, so I wrote out smart contracts basically, and a lot of the interest generation stuff for the ICO itself. And Luke was also pretty much on the tech side. He did pretty much all of the data science behind proving our fund parameters, and all the graphs and stuff you see in our white paper were constructed by him. So that's pretty much our roles, I guess.
That's awesome, man. I didn't know you were like doing all that stuff, At first, the first time I met you, I thought you were just like the social guy, You're the guy that just keeps everybody in line in the Slack channel, which is where I ran into you.
No. All our support is pretty much done by the team who made the product and made the website. I coded a reasonable amount of that as well. So it's been pretty cool because you're able to see everything, from the ground up, and a lot of the ideation comes through in the implementation that we've chosen. And it was quite interesting to tie in a lot of the investment management choices we made into the tech itself. I think it's a pretty exciting space to be in.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I had no idea. And I didn't know you were that involved. I didn't know the actual core team was in the room answering questions. I was always impressed at how well you knew the project, because I'm in a lot of different Slack channels for a lot of different projects.
Yeah.
And it's always, pretty vague answers from guys that were hired just to do, just to sit in Slack and try to answer questions as best of their knowledge. But it always kind of blew me away when people would ask, something extremely technical that most people in there don't have a clue about. And then you would come back with something, and I was like, wow, how does this guy know that much about it, on the tech side? So yeah, I didn't even know that until just now. So that's pretty awesome. And that's just another reason why I like your project so much, that you guys yourselves are that involved in your community. That says a lot, I think, about it as well. And, I can tell you one thing from all the people that we have in our groups, which is almost, 75, closing in on 80,000 people now. One of the top three factors when people choose products to invest in is the team behind them.
Yeah.
That's definitely a big one. You ask anybody in our group and they'll say the team. So that's actually impresses me even right now. So now I'm even more excited about it, to be honest.
But, thanks.
I think from the ICO, it's there's quite a bit of frustration that comes out of the seeming disconnect between the community and the team, right? You can see the people on the page like it might be like X famous person or Y great coder, but if they're not in the Slack, if they're not on the Facebook group actually answering the questions, then I think people still develop a level of distrust, which is and also beyond that, it's also like there's been a sort of like fake advisors scandal where like people start listing people on their ICOs that don't actually do anything. So I think if you're actually physically able to talk to those people, it like imparts a good sense of confidence in the project.
So out of curiosity, how did y'all, I know about Crypto20. I love it. I think it's really, really, really cool what y'all are doing. But how did y'all end up getting into this particular project?
Well, I think that, so all of us were pretty interested in the crypto space going back quite a while. And we basically got together and said, like, what do we think is missing and what would we like to see happen within the space, and chatted around a bit and, like, spoke to each other, I guess, as to what we thought would be cool to make, essentially. And invest, like, an index fund was basically something that came up because we thought that kind of investment vehicle was completely lacking.
Right.
With the current offerings that are brought forward. And we thought it would be like a fantastic way to bring new people into the crypto space and like a pretty interesting project from a technical side. And even from a pure financial sense, it's a really cool idea that's not really popularized in the traditional financial world. So bringing it all together was something that was pretty exciting. And so we decided to take the idea forward from that, basically.
I think like in terms of like another singular moment was, I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with useless Ethereum token. It was like an ICO a while back where like a guy explicitly said on the website, like he's taking your money. So then after I saw that, I just, something like snapped in me. There's so much trash going out. Like, surely at this point, with so much interest and so much trash, like you should be able to cut through with something legitimate and transparent. And that's basically what we just try to set out to do.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. There are a lot of ridiculous, just attempted projects that are out there. And, a lot of them are, I guess jokes, if you even want to call it that. But funny thing is there's people still, getting wealthy over some of these. And I'm actually familiar with the useless Ethereum one. And
about like a few days after its launch, a week or so into his raise, it went up by like 100% in value. So people somehow managed to make a profit from that. That was explicitly a pointless, cryptocurrency. It's interesting, wild times.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of shows, I don't want to be rude or anything, but I mean, most investors in this space are pretty young. There are definitely a lot of very inexperienced ones, and I noticed that, I mean, we all know hype and FUD can, move the market, but one of the things that people tend to really like is that like new shiny toy that hits the market, no matter how dumb it is or how legit it is. I've seen legit projects kind of tumble and crash, and that stupid useless Ethereum one, like you said, they actually made money on it. And I think that's where regulation really does need to come in, and I think it'll help the market a lot. It'll prevent people from getting ripped off and scammed, or jumping the gun on whatever the new shiny token or coin is, and potentially losing their hard-earned money on something that they didn't take the time to research. So
yeah, I totally agree.
Another thing that sort of inspired us a bit is I grew really concerned that the value in a lot of like ERC20 tokens is simply by association. So like someone will create a really cool project, and then they'll be like, okay, look, we're having an ICO for this project. We need your money to fund it. Here, we're going to give you these tokens. But those tokens have like little to no relevance to the project. something great. You're just paying for something cool, and I'm hoping by association those tokens will escalate in value. It's not like an IPO in which you're actually getting shares in that company. Like tokens don't entitle you whatsoever to any equity in this cool products people are being built. So you really have to look at the fine print in terms of how the tokens are linked to the product, no matter how cool the product is, which is like another form of like duplicitousness and like the sort of ICO space.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of them, honestly, the majority of them out there don't really even need to be decentralized. It's just another means for people to make money because it's tokenized and it's, they make money from whatever. And actually, Keegan here is one of our superstar writers.
That's me.
Thanks for joining. And this guy right here is one that will absolutely agree with you. He hates projects that don't bring anything helpful or useful to the industry. I know that he doesn't like those, and he makes it very clear all the time. So
thank you for roping me in here because I was going to chime in anyway, which is to say that, I feel like there are two sides to tokenization. And, on the one hand, I liken it to just like a couple of years ago, there was the app explosion. Now we're going to go through a de-app explosion wherein everyone is either reinventing the wheel on the blockchain or solving a problem via the blockchain. Hey, get down. 1 second. Dogs, get off. Sorry, that's still good. She's still quite a puppy. So on the one hand, there's a lot of opportunity for people to do things in the blockchain space that are actually functional tokens and that are solving a real world problem or doing it better on the blockchain. And then there's just tokenization for tokenization's sake, where it's like, hey, let's spend a couple grand, put together some snazzy, we'll put together a snazzy website and a white paper and maybe a good bounty program, and then we'll get a bunch of money for not really doing anything useful, not really offering anything useful, which I would say most ICOs out there, well, I don't know. I think there are definitely a large amount of ICOs in the space that don't, as Jason said, don't need to be tokenized, don't need to be put on the blockchain. But yeah.
Yeah.
Also,
but I suppose it needs to be done anyways because that's what's going to bring blockchain mainstream. Is all the attention, whether it's bad or good, it's still bringing it to people's attention. And like I mentioned earlier, I think regulation is going to help kind of weed out a lot of them eventually. So, as much as some of us dislike certain things, I think in the grand scheme of things, it's probably a good thing. The sheer number of them, this explosion, all the failures that are bound to happen, it's actually a positive thing, I think, as much as I hate to say that. But people like my parents who are in their 60s and 70s, they're actually starting to learn what all this stuff is now. And that's what needs to happen. So if it wasn't for all this chaos, that never would have happened, I don't think. At least not for a long, long time. So you could look at it either way, I suppose.
My thought on it is that right now, go ahead.
Sorry, please go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say my thought on it is that it's definitely all the rage right now, ICOs, and the more and more people it's almost like every single day there's another ICO. Someone's talking about some other crazy little project, stuff that sometimes makes me just wonder, like, what in the world? How many ICOs is maybe one singular person doing, just trying to get like a little grab and stuff? But overall, I agree with you, Jason, that it's definitely a good thing in some ways, as long as people are careful and aware as they can be, and try to just be sure that they do their research and pay attention to what they're doing. And I think that once the hype of it all dies down, and like you're saying, there's a little bit more regulation, that it's all going to be really useful. Of course, some projects are going to be no good, but ICOs as a whole, I think it's definitely productive for the whole entire blockchain system.
Yep. I also want to agree, and also add +1 to the statement that I think a little regulation will go a long way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm. Like the little half-baked anarchist in me finds the idea of regulating any cryptocurrency totally repellent, but the pragmatist in me is seeing a lot of people getting scammed out of their money, and I would prefer that to not happen. I am totally comfortable with it. At least some regulation and how, like, at least as a start, regulation in how, tokens should be treated, and what their functionality is. I just wanted to give a shout out to the comment section. Wanted to give a shout out to Joe Blackburn, who gave us a what's up. And then we've got a couple of questions here, which I don't really have any good answers to, but we've got 2 or 3 people asking about Tezos, which is not a project that I have much familiarity with. I know that that's kind of more Jason's realm.
Tezos?
Tezos, yeah.
Oh boy, yeah. We'll touch on that one later.
Okay.
We'll come back to that one.
Yeah, we've got a couple of people in the comments who are asking, whether or not it's dead and buried. That appears to be the case, but I haven't been keeping
I'll answer that question later. Right now, I know Matt had something to say a little while ago.
All right.
Yeah, I was just saying that I think we'd see that the whole cryptocurrency space begins to normalize in the coming years, probably relatively soon. And, I agree with both of you guys in saying that regulation is a good thing. And it's important to realize that it's the intention behind regulation that's really important. And, intentions aren't inherently bad, and often, they're really good for a whole bunch of reasons. And as the space starts to mature, we'll, I think, have to come to terms with some regulations specifically from that aspect.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, where'd you go, Meredith? Real life problems. Jeff should be joining us any minute now, actually.
Yeah, he said he'd be
That'd
around.
be cool. I would love for you guys to meet him. I know he's a big
But
fan of
Nice to see you guys in real time too, as opposed to just on the Slack.
Yeah, are you on the Slack as well?
Yeah.
They're actually programmers for the Crypto20 as well. Those are the guys that are in their social channels answering questions. Blew my mind when I found that out, actually.
Yeah, I gotta give you guys props, because I spend a lot of time in a lot of different cryptocurrency related Slacks, and a lot of time in particular project Slacks, and Crypto20 is by far one of the most responsive, one of the most user friendly, most community focused. And while I'm giving a shout out, I want to give a shout out to RecReal on Crypto20, which I'm behind. I'm sorry, what was that?
He makes some great memes, and he carries the Slack.
Yeah, no, Graphic Design has I gotta give props to that. So I just wanted to give your Slack a shout out. As someone who spends a lot of time in Slacks, I'm very impressed.
It's been really cool. I mean, it wasn't something we particularly anticipated, and nobody could have predicted exactly how the raise would have gone. But we've gotten so many more backers than we thought we would have, from people all around the world investing whatever they could, basically, into the index fund. And a lot of those people have converted to joining the Slack. I think we have 1,600 users now, and it's crazy. Hundreds of messages every day, people just helping each other out and chatting about a whole host of different things. So if you want to join, please feel free.
The one thing I really liked about the Slack is, at the start, it's it's like a newborn child, right? Like you have to do everything for it. You have to answer every question. You have to do every query. But once you have a little community start to develop, it becomes almost self-sustaining in a way. I love watching the other user interaction. Other users give great answers from things we've answered before. I'm really appreciative of that sort of thing. The community becomes almost self-sustaining.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Like he said, RecReal, he answers a ton of questions. I've actually spoken to him on a couple occasions, chatted back and forth, and really cool guy. But when does your ICO officially end?
So the end date is the 30th of this month.
Oh, okay.
So still, 24 days left.
All right, good. Yeah, I mean, I already invested, of course, so I was
But
just
we're
asking for our viewers.
sorry.
Oh, I was just saying I already invested personally, but I mean, I just wanted to let the viewers know in case anybody else was interested in the project, which I can't technically recommend, but I would definitely say go look at it.
Sure. and
I got an email from you guys. I see that you guys are opening up to accredited investors now in the U.S. Or at least
we're
doing that.
busy
Right.
exploring. Initially, we excluded the US entirely due to legal risk, and you got to follow the correct legal channels. And it's been told to us recently by lawyers after having looked at it quite hard that we could possibly pursue a Reg D US exemption to be filed specifically for that, and then you could take on accredited US investors. So we're busy gauging interest to see if that would be worth pursuing.
Right.
That's very recent. That email went out, inquiring about that today.
Yeah, it was a couple hours ago. Very recent.
Yeah, would be awesome.
I'm really stoked to see that you guys are doing so well. Like I've always been entertained in your Slack by the like guppy and whale monitoring.
Whale Watching Society.
Like I like that you guys had that little community initiative of recognizing the big and the small investors. And my reviews are always objective, like they are as objective as I can be about distilling the white paper. But then any enthusiasm I have for any project is totally my own and pro bono, and I'm incredibly excited about Crypto20. I have full faith it's going to be a monster for numerous reasons that I've said before, but I'll say them again, which are index funds work. They're reliable. Like people who have experience with investing will look at an index fund and go, "Yep, that's a solid investment." And so you guys appeal to traditional investors who are wanting to get into the space, more like a low risk, high yield investment, and then also to people who want to get into the space, but as your white paper said, kind of get paralyzed by choice, which is huge in this complex and not necessarily intuitive field. So yeah, I'm glad to see that you guys are doing so well. I'm hoping that you'll be able to open up to more U.S. investors going forward. Because I would love to be able to tell people to freely go and invest. But yeah, just stoked on your project.
Awesome, thanks for that.
Yeah. Regardless of whether we manage to get the SEC filings done in time or whether we have enough interest for this project, is that we certainly are planning future sort of funds in which we might create like a portfolio of funds with different risk profiles and that sort of thing. And then in the future, even if we don't manage to get the US investors to participate in Crypto20, in the future funds, we'll definitely make better efforts to allow the US investors to participate.
That would be awesome. That'd be something I'd be interested in as well. I'm a pretty high risk kind of person. That's me. But I know a lot of people, I've been touting your project actually in our groups and trying to bring attention to it. Just because I'm a fan again, but I noticed a lot of people have no idea what a hedge fund is. So you think you could break it down for the people watching real quick, just so they kind of have like a general understanding of what it is exactly. So
an index fund, right?
Yeah, sorry.
So an index fund is basically a financial vehicle that aims to track an underlying market index. So in our case, we have a token which represents a share of the top 20 cryptocurrencies directly. So instead of having to purchase a broad portfolio yourself, you can hold a single token instead. And in that way, you're diversely holding the top 20 currencies by market cap. And because we rebalance weekly, it ensures that you're constantly tracking this index. And as you said previously, index funds are a fantastic vehicle for investment. John Bogle and Warren Buffett, and you can drop a whole bunch of big finance names who put themselves behind this kind of product. So we're basically just taking that old kind of instrument that existed since the 1970s and applying it to cryptocurrencies.
Yeah, so just to make a technical point, in case there are any sticklers watching, it's that we're both the index and the index fund. So for instance, Vanguard 500 is the index fund, and it bases its holdings on the S&P 500, which is the index, right? So we've created our own index of the top 20 cryptocurrencies with a 10% maximum cap, and then we rebalance our portfolio to track that index that we've assigned, right? So we're both the index and the fund. Yeah, just to be fair.
Yeah, that was a good point, actually. It didn't even dawn on me.
It's interesting, though. I think we've definitely gone the route of fully explaining everything. Our white paper is very much an academic white paper, and in a sense that's contrary to what you see a lot of ICOs doing. I think it's confusing for people because we don't have a very frilly white paper with lots of colors, and we don't promise an ROI, and we don't promise dividends, and we don't promise any of those things. We don't have convoluted payment platforms and tokens that are created based on other tokens and a whole bunch of stuff like that. It's just a plain index fund where tokens represent the share of the fund, and with a whole bunch of data science backing up the specific hyperparameters we've chosen. And I think that possibly makes it difficult to digest. So if anybody watching doesn't understand, I thoroughly recommend you read through a lot of our Medium articles are particularly good, I think, at explaining.
I think it's all about the fund.
The fund.
Yeah, the academic fund.
Yeah.
Latin modern.
As someone who reads through white papers for a living, I found your white paper to be extremely refreshing because it was all data-driven and straight to the point. And in many parts, it read kind of like an economics or a calculus textbook. I mean, it was, no holds barred, totally reliant on the data with no, it was straight to the point. It wasn't dressed up, and it didn't have any veneer over it to because as you were saying, there's a lot of white papers that come out that are all veneer, all style, and not really a whole lot of substance. And yours was 100% substance, and I was, I had to read it several times, but it was a pleasure to read.
Nice.
To read it several times, with a lot of tabs open, researching different aspects. But hold on.
It took us
a long time to make the white paper, yeah. Let alone do all the testing and stuff that was needed for, to create the content.
Yeah, I can only imagine. I mean, honestly, I can't. I mean, I'm a developer myself, but holy cow. Something the scale of that. Whew. Which, I guess pretty soon I might find out for myself, so we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see how that goes. That's for another day. We'll talk about that another time.
Oh, it looks like Sam is excited to see you guys. Hey, Sam.
Oh, cool, yeah. All right, I'm going to answer that Tezos question real quick. Somebody wanted to know if the project is dead or not. The project's technically not dead yet. Yes, there officially is a class action lawsuit. Yeah, there's a lot of people who have joined it, but it was an unlimited, rather an uncapped ICO. They made, well, technically they made as much money as I kind of assumed they would, especially with Tim Draper, name dropping himself in there. But they are supposedly still moving forward with the project. They're trying to push through this. There's been a lot of internal problems with the Tezos group. Husband and wife. I'm not going to get into all that detail right now, but I think they now have control of the funds, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not going to say 100% sure on that, but I think they do. I think they're trying to move forward. I also caught wind that there's another law firm, which makes two law firms so far that are going to be involved in this class action, possibly 2 different class action lawsuits. I also heard that might be the case. So, I don't know. I was an investor myself. I was an early investor. I'm not going to take my money out. I mean, I would rather see it move forward now that, the smoke is kind of clearing with it a little bit. Um, Hopefully not too many people join. I think it was a really cool project. I liked the team, sans one particular person, but I'm not going to say who. I'm sure we all know who that is. I love that Tim Draper was such a huge, part of the whole deal, and, him becoming a partner, an actual partner. Um, so I don't know. I mean, I can't say 100% or not. Right now, the project is still live. Um, our money's safe either way you go, I think. That's just my personal opinion. I think it'll happen. I think it's just going to obviously take a little bit more time now because after their internal problems, now they have to worry about this. So, you investors in it that keep doing all this, filing the class action, you're not helping yourself. So, I think if that went away or never happened in the first place, you would have got your tokens much, much sooner. So, I'm not going to be involved in it. I'd rather see it move forward and, benefit the blockchain space. So, as of right now, I think it's good to go. So, it's just going to depend on the total outcome of the class actions. So, can't really say for sure right now. So we'll have to see how big they get. They have a lot of money to spend, so I don't know. We'll see how it goes. So, anyways, I just wanted to throw it out there real quick because somebody had to go to bed. So hopefully I caught it in time.
Hey, give me a second. Jason, do you happen to have a public link for this video? Because the link that I have is the one that's linked to the group, which is behind the group privacy wall.
Not yet. Not until we're done. I'm also recording it, so this is going to be published to YouTube, and then I will throw out a link, and you guys can share it wherever you want. I know. Okay. I know they wanted to throw it in the Crypto20 room, so. All right, cool. Jeff is joining us now, actually. Finally.
Yeah.
Here's a link real quick.
Yeah, go for it. I'm working on getting a couple of folks from the Slack channel in. 1 second.
Hey, so is there anything else you guys wanted to discuss about your project, or anything regarding it that you want to throw out there to all your potential investors after this?
That's about let's think.
Yeah. There's a lot to say, I guess.
Hey, now's your chance to brag, man.
Yeah, I think one of our core value propositions is that our offering is really simple. At a fundamental level, it is substantially simpler than any other kind of investment vehicle you can invest into in the cryptocurrency space. We don't have a convoluted platform. We don't go through any third-party mediators. We don't have continuous contributors or any kind of complicated token schemes. It's just through and through, tokens represent the share of the underlying index fund. And based on that, if you believe that the fund will appreciate over time, we'd say this is a pretty good reason to invest within that alone. Secondly, what's pretty cool is that we've already got a finished product. It's not like we're raising investment to build some kind of platform, to build some kind of product that can then be sold. It's already finished, and we're basically just creating a funding round now for this closed-end fund. So anybody interested can see on our website that it's more than just a sales pitch. We have a whole investor page. We've got an insights page that shows our interactions with exchanges. And I think that's something that's really cool and sets us apart from pretty much most other ICOs.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. Our last AMA that we had, that was actually one of the things that came up was there's just so many out there now. The failure rate's going to be the same as the .com boom. It's going to happen. And, I, as a matter of fact, this is Jeff. This is the team leader. I think he's the one that actually mentioned that these days, to really, garner all that attention and to have a truly successful ICO, you really have to have a product to show people because the sheer number of them, you otherwise have no idea what's going to be successful, what's going to fail. So the fact that you do have a working product, that's definitely in the top three of how do I choose what to invest in. For sure. The team, which you guys clearly have, you guys are super awesome. And you have a product. I mean, you guys are transparent. You have a fantastic, like Keegan said, the white paper. So, I mean, you guys really do have the total package. And, and of course, it's an index fund. And as you mentioned earlier, they're pretty much a win-win. I mean, hey, if Warren Buffett says so, man, I'm, the dude knows what he's doing. So, I'm definitely gonna jump on that train. So, yeah,
And it's
definitely a big fan.
so much too, where you just have to buy, like one token, Crypto20. Like how many times do we get questions, people saying like, oh, what do I invest in? Like it's such a simple answer now. Just be like, hey, invest in Crypto20. You have all your bases covered. You only need one token. You need one private key. You need one wallet. Like just lock it in. So it's like a really simple answer. I mean, for sure, you got BitConnect up in the top 20 right now, which kind of sucks ass. But other than that, you're doing pretty good.
I wasn't gonna bring it up.
That's not a joke. We actually are excluding like cryptos which we strongly and objectively feel are like misleading their investors or are potentially like a Ponzi. And yeah, we're not including BitConnect. We also won't be including Tether because there's no opportunity for growth. It's just like it's a one-to-one peg to the dollar.
Yeah.
And so a lot of really sketchy.
Yeah. Also, we're actually not sure whether it's one-to-one peg to the dollar, but not in the way that would be the good way. So.
Yeah, that's a really good thing to bring up. Tether's pretty much like the U.S. dollar. It used to be based on something, but it's certainly not anymore. So.
Yeah. So basically,
Probably the fact that you guys were excluding, other tokens, and then of course your own token, which I was curious about if you guys were going to go recursive with it. But yeah, while I was researching, I saw that you guys were being kind of judicial and excluding some tokens, and that warmed my heart. The fact that you were excluding BitConnect made me very, very happy.
We got a comment somewhere on it might have been on Reddit or somewhere where someone was like, "This is garbage. They don't have BitConnect."
Wow.
Yeah, your knowledge of crypto is garbage, my friend.
That's why we do these. That's why we have the group, so people, figure out what's actually going on.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's crazy now. Like the crypto space, I feel is so like it's still so immature and saturated with greed. I had somebody message me today. He's like, "Hey man, like should I invest in Ethereum Classic? It's up 45% today. Why is that?" I'm like, dude, literally the only answer is hype and greed. And for that to be even a top 50 crypto is like absolutely ridiculous. So it's exciting to be able to have an index fund thing like Crypto20. Where you can just be like, you know what? Like, we're still so young. If I don't know which ones to pick, I'm just going to hop on the fund and ride this thing up because we haven't even scratched the surface on mainstream adoption.
Oh, no.
Yeah. I think something interesting, just in terms of the rebalancing and stuff as well, is I did the stats the other day, and I think it was something like 50% of the coins which were in the top 20 over the last year and a half are no longer in the top 100.
What, 50%?
Yeah, I think it's about 50%. So 50% of coins which were at one point in the top 20 over the last year and a half are no longer in the top 100.
Wow. That's crazy. It's even crazier to think that Dogecoin is still up there.
I know, right?
I still have
it every day. I don't know.
I still have Doge. Nice.
Well, it just goes to show, the level of experience of a lot of the investors, A lot of it is hype. A lot of it is just lack of research,
I mean, it's crazy.
My buddy said that to go do this, so 100 people jump on it. It's like, take the 2 minutes, look it up on Google, join our room and ask,
Yeah.
At least spend a couple minutes in research before you throw your money on something. Or look for an index fund. I mean,
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it's interesting that you have currencies that are outright Ponzi schemes and very much borderline illegal for other ones, and they're within the top 20 out of 1,000 coin market cap. I think that's the most telling when it comes to the maturity of investment in the crypto space.
Yeah, BitConnect is disconcerting. Like, it's disconcerting that it's worth so much. Like, but I guess, I mean, the pyramid goes deep, right? Like, I mean, like you said, like, mainstream adoption is just starting. So, like, that's the problem with Ponzi schemes, which is like, if you have enough people, it seems legit for long, but not forever, right?
Yeah.
yep. And I've seen a lot of people even recommend it. Oh, even though it's a Ponzi, you're still gonna make a lot of money. And of course, people do it. It's but whatever.
I mean, you could argue it's a form of high risk. It's
It is.
It's kind of like investing in
I'm all for letting people do what they want with their money. I will not be particularly nice about, I won't particularly call them nice things if I see them doing good things with their money. But I just wanted to let you guys know, Luke and Matthew, that a couple of members in your Slack are threatening to sue for not having BitConnect. So, you might want to get your lawyers together. Also,
Kick them out of Slack and delete the comments. Never happened.
Matthew, it's been said a couple times that you look like a young Billy Idol. So I just thought I'd throw that out.
Well, I just wanted to say to you guys, man, I appreciate you guys coming. I know it's like crazy late. What time is it there right now?
5 to 5 in the morning.
Yeah, like 5 minutes.
Brutal. Yeah, we kind of messed up the whole time calculation thing earlier. But man, if you guys if you guys need to go, I don't want to keep you here till 6 o'clock in the morning. That's a little extreme. But
do you have any questions for us? Perhaps want to accumulate some questions that people on your forums have been having, perhaps.
Yeah. Actually, I have a question right now that I'm just thinking of, because I didn't know that you guys actually omitted different cryptocurrencies. So like you're saying that you're omitting, so BitConnect, you're omitting Tether. What about are there other ones that are on your list? Say like something like, for example, Ethereum Classic, in my opinion, has no legs behind it. Like what else are you omitting, or are there only those two right now?
Yeah, we're not making a call based on whether or not it's a good investment, right? Because that's contrary to an index methodology. It's rather that the midpoints that are either illegal or are like Ponzi schemes or scams of that sort. That's pretty much the only criteria.
Yeah, so
it's just legality.
Someone asked me the same question about Ethereum Classic, and my response is just like, if it fits within the index methodology, then it's not our place to judge, right? Like that's the whole point. So. We essentially just don't want to be, even if we invested in BitConnect and we like managed to make some profits off of it, like we still wouldn't want to be supporting something like that, and we'd be implicitly supporting it quite heavily, because I mean we'd be putting like a collection of thousands of people's money into something which we know is just like unethical. So I mean we wouldn't want to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense because, BitConnect, you're putting your money into something that really just has no sustenance to it. Whereas, like Ethereum Classic, it's coming from a nice foundation, and that's a lot more technical. So, yeah, I think those are good parameters to go by when which coins make it into the index fund. That's good.
We were joking earlier because, BitConnect's whole scheme is that they claim they do Bitcoin trading behind the scenes, and that's how they generate the dividends.
Yeah, right.
So, we were thinking of creating
someone in the Slack was saying,
a BitConnect bot to trade BitConnect, and then we call it BitConnect Connect. Carry on adding to the pyramid.
Yeah.
I wouldn't recommend anyone does that though, please.
Yeah, we're doing it.
No.
That's what we're going to pivot to at the end of the ICO. We're going to be like, index fund, we're trading BitConnect.
Yeah, that's right. Throw some referral links in there, and you have the makings of all of it, all in a good ICO.
Just make sure that all of the posts about it are full of emoji.
Sorry.
Just make sure that whenever you have members posting in your bounty and they're posting about it, they have to have at least 20 emoji, and for their post to be approved.
It's a requirement.
It's a thing. It's a thing. People use a lot of emoji to shill a shitty project.
Uh-huh. All the time. And it has
One
to be
of-
at
one of
least
my
the
immediate
height of your screen. With a minimum of 7 links.
Yeah.
Oh, you guys would be surprised how many we get. Hundreds a day. Easily. Probably
Okay.
thousands.
What do you got? Oh, yeah.
Apparently Sam's pretty excited about Crypto20 because he said that he would let someone punch him in the face for just one C20. I don't know how you guys feel about this Sam guy, but hey, there's an opportunity.
Rick Real?
Joe, is that a threat?
I think Sam P is Rick Real.
He's identified himself.
Yeah. I wasn't gonna rat him out, but I'm sure you guys. So Joe's threatening to steal my ass, and I'm not entirely sure. I'm not gonna take that sitting down, Joe. I'm gonna need you to, put your money where your mouth is. Let's see. Eggplant emoji all day. Mitchell Thomas wants to know what the main discussion was about, which I don't know if we really necessarily have a good answer for that. I don't know. It's been a lot of discussion about Crypto20. Sorry, I just saw Joe's response. Yeah, it's been mostly just talking about Crypto20, and we're all super bullish about this project. But if you guys have any further questions, let us know. We're happy. We're here. We're all moderately awake. Can answer questions.
I don't know about those two.
Yeah, as soon as I said moderately awake, it cut to them, and I was like, oh, maybe not so much. But
Yeah, there hasn't really been many questions, just a lot of positive comments about you guys, though. Pretty much
thank
all
you,
anybody's
generic man,
saying.
for your generic man comment.
I guess I have something like we could ask you guys about. What do you guys think about like ICO marketing in general? What do you think are good and what do you think are bad marketing practices?
I think one of the best ways to market an ICO is through the grassroots. Like when you get people who are genuinely excited about your project and are talking about it in communities, whether it's on like say Facebook or Twitter or wherever. I think these are like the ways that things really spread. Because on the flip side of it, I think the worst marketing are banner ads. You just get inundated with these things. I don't know how many banner ads I saw for Paragon, and the more I saw them, the more I realized there's no way I'm ever going to research more into this thing. 'Cause it is just annoying when you hear people who are like genuinely excited about a project. I think that's the best for myself personally.
Celebrity endorsements: DJ Khaled, Paris Hilton, Floyd Mayweather.
None of that.
Notable tech personalities.
That's an instant no for me. I won't even look into them.
Yep.
I don't know. I'm partial to Slack. I think that's my favorite way, because that's actually how I got to know so much about your project, and that's why I got so much interest in yours, because like he was saying, when you use social channels like that, you get to actually get involved with the people that are involved in the product, and you can ask technical questions and actually get a legit technical answer back, especially in yours, and the more you get to know the team members and the people that are involved, that's the only really way that you can see how legit the project's going to be. I mean, like you were saying earlier, there's a lot of channels it's almost like a desert, man. There's like 2,000 people in it, but there's nobody answering questions, and they're not posting news or updates, and then people decide to back out of it, or they dump their tokens the second it hits the exchange because they lost all of their confidence in the project. So I mean, I guess it's probably both the best and the worst ways to advertise your ICO. Just depends on how involved the team is.
Yeah. All right.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, now that I'm done stress signing, I will go through the, the list of like red flags I have for different ICO marketing. So I mean, I made that joke earlier, that quip about emoji posting. Like, to go along with the point that Jeff was making initially, I think a good product will speak for itself. Will speak enough for itself that you don't need to do a whole lot to advertise it. So, like, one of the things that I see a lot with ICOs that get posted that immediately, just get an intuitive, well, this is probably a shitty project thing is, if you have to market yourself as the next Ethereum, as the next Bitcoin, as the next XYZ, and like that is a crux of your marketing, then chances are you're playing to people's desire to get rich and to their desire to make huge gains without necessarily offering something. So yeah, billing themselves as the next big thing. Like a bunch of emoji, like you.
Or if it says anywhere in any of their marketing literature, this is not a scam.
Yeah, exactly. You would be surprised how many things try to sell themselves by telling you how not of a scam they are, and it's like, well, we think the lady does protest too much, right? On top of that, like I believe that there's a genuine that there is a genuine use for referral links and for bounty programs, but I can't stand them in the crypto space personally.
Yeah.
If only because they've just been beaten into the ground, and I'm just so like I think that there are plenty of projects now that have that are totally legitimate and that use referral links. Like Cloud is one that comes to mind, but for every decent project that uses a referral link, pretty much every other one is probably kind of garbage. I don't know. I mean, that's quite a huge generalization to make, but like the general idea is if your product can't speak for itself and it can't sell itself, and you need to rely on heavy marketing to sell it, probably not the wisest investment.
Yeah, it's just right in the right train is all that's doing.
Sorry. On the point of like referrals and affiliate links and all that kind of thing, we had some questions about that, and I had to explain to quite a few people that other companies can have referral links because you can give people bonus tokens if your tokens don't have any inherent worth. But if we gave people bonus tokens, we'd be giving them other people's money. So like,
Good point.
We can't really, we just can't do that, right? Unfortunately, we can't really offer sort of bonus tokens in the same way other people can offer like referral link bonuses and stuff. Yeah.
It's interesting though. I think we're on the cusp of like breaking out of that space of cryptocurrency, or like that space of like ICO investing at least, where people are becoming more clued up and people are slowly starting to realize that it's more about the grassroots advertising of the product themselves. And it's very interesting because a lot of the interactions we get with people are them kind of expecting us to follow along in that same vein, where you have the ridiculous advertising and the ridiculous bonuses. We've had people complain saying like your bonuses are 50% compared to the 50% off I got at XYZ ICO, and people are like they don't understand why there isn't a referral program. But it's pretty interesting to be on that side of things where you're more selling your idea and your product and getting community around that as opposed to just creating all this hype.
Yeah, I feel it's like very much there's like two polarities. Like either these ICOs are playing on people's greed and they're doing a really good job with referral links and they're doing a really good job with emojis, or they're on the other side and it's like they actually have a tangible product that people are excited about because it has utility and value. And so yeah, again, like this is something where, like you guys can't give referral links, and I think that's what gives it even more inherent value. So yeah, I think it's like the products, like everyone's saying, they just speak for themselves, and the word of mouth spreads for sure.
Yeah, I was saying earlier, I think before you joined, but I just wanted to say also people have to be aware, even if the product and the project is really good and promising, that like the ICO may not be, right? So like in terms of the way the tokens are distributed and how the value of the tokens is linked to the project itself, even if the project is really awesome, if your tokens don't entitle you to any real ownership in the project, then like it's still not a good investment. Like it's just investment by association.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think that ties into a lot of what's currently out there just seems to lack any concept of like fundamental business principles, like what happens once the product has been launched and where does the revenue streams go, and often you find it goes to the participants for the platform and then people who join on later, and then perhaps like celebrity endorsements or whatever. It's like five different paths for revenue streams to flow, and they just really don't make much sense from a business perspective. And I think that's something we focus quite a lot on, like what happens once the product's been launched and exactly how does someone who's participating see a return. And I think our offering is really simple in that regard. It's a straight to direct asset link, which is really not complicated compared to the other stuff.
So to answer like a question on that, like about revenue streams and stuff. So we've had quite a few questions like just about people being confused as to how they make money out of Crypto20. With like other things like obviously like pay you dividends and that sort of stuff. And like so obviously with Crypto20 it's really simple. Like your tokens just increase in value and then you can sell them whenever you want. So like but the thing about dividends is if you're really confident in the like investment vehicle, like you wouldn't want to be paid dividends, because then you're taking your money out of that investment vehicle that you have confidence in, right?
Yeah.
So like if you really believe in an investment, I'd say you wouldn't want to take dividends, right? Like you'd want to keep your money in that thing, because the fact that you pay people dividends would reduce the earning potential of the fund.
Yeah, I agree with that. So just because I haven't heard it from you guys yet, maybe this got touched upon earlier, but because there's quite a lot of different, I guess you could say, groupings. There's like the top 50 cryptocurrencies, and there's a lot of hedge fund, maybe that's not the best word, but like index fund cryptocurrencies happening right now. Like what would you say are like the three major points where you guys feel that Crypto20 has a major leg up above these other ones?
So I think like an initial point is that most of those are platforms, right? Where they have an ICO that funds a platform, and then investors can invest in like funds created upon that platform, right? And this is a business model just doesn't really make any sense, because you're raising, say, like $5 million to create a platform. That's not resulting in any assets that are going to appreciate in value. That's not resulting in any returns. That's just another group of people that we need to pay out from an asset when it eventually does perform. So, our three main value propositions, I'd say, are first that we're substantially lower cost because of that, because we're going direct to the end user as a token itself. There is no platform or middleman in between. And the second main point is that, so the low cost extends from that. The second main point is that, the second main point is that our fund hyperparameters have been, determined by judicious data science. You've seen a few funds just have, equal weighting of different things and like different market caps from different components, and you need to ask yourself, where do they get that information from? Like what's allowing them to make these investment decisions? And our response to those kind of questions have been to literally determine exactly what the best fund composition is, and then create that kind of fund with a set like mathematical formulation that there is no investment decision once the fund is created, and that's exactly how an index fund works. So it's low cost, the fund hyperparameters, and then obviously full transparency as well, which a lot of ICOs are lacking.
Oh, yeah, and then I guess also just real-time liquidation. So like you can liquidate funds at any time through the smart contracts. We don't even need to mediate that, really.
To explain that a bit further, there are essentially two prices that can be spoken about when you talk about C20 tokens. The first is directly enforced by the smart contract, and that is the net asset value of tokens, which is directly linked to the top 20 cryptocurrencies, like based on the fund that tokens represent a share of. And the second price you can talk about is the exchange price. And because we allow direct liquidation with the smart contract autonomously, it doesn't make sense for the exchange price to be less than that net asset value. So you've got like a trading minimum, at least, that you're assured upon investing with C20, which is like a core functionality. It's not some buyback scheme. It's not like a 30% surety for investors or anything like that. It is a core functionality, and I think that that's pretty unique in the investing space in cryptocurrency, like specifically.
Right on, right on. And I'm looking at your guys' webpage right now. This is a little bit off topic, but it's showing essentially a 1 year span comparing Crypto20 to the CRIX, where Crypto20 goes from $10,000 to over $300,000 in a year, and CRIX goes from 10,000 to around, what am I looking at here? 100,000, so about the third. What exactly is the CRIX in comparison to Crypto20? Because it's also an index fund of sorts, isn't it?
It's like I was speaking about earlier, it's not an index fund, it's just an index. So it's been put together by it's like a university project, like between, I think, like the University of Singapore and a German university. I think it's University of Hamburg. It's on the page there. Essentially, it's just they came up with a metric that they thought would be representative of the cryptocurrency market as a whole and representative of its growth. So
like the CRIX would represent just a pure market cap index, and we've shown that because our fund hyperparameters are chosen through the a judicious data science process, that it performs substantially better because it's by design that it's supposed to perform like that. And it's important to note that because you're investing in the top 20, your risk is substantially more diverse, and the returns aren't necessarily as important, even though they're still pretty great compared to any single asset, almost single asset.
Yeah,
so it's just a comparison. There's also a comparison on the website between Crypto20's holdings and just pure Bitcoin, for example. You'll see that Bitcoin would have increased by 600% or whatever, and Crypto20's holdings would have increased by substantially more than that. And that's just because of the way the market had moved in the past year when we've done our tests.
So like capping the constituent fund size, so like the maximum amount that any particular crypto can constitute your fund, does two things. So like the one thing it does is that it generally decreases your risk, because instead of having now like 70 funds in Bitcoin, you have them spread out across a number of cryptocurrencies which are sort of relatively decoupled from it. So like, it decreases your risk in that way, but then also having that cap allows you to capture some of the gains from the lower coins that pop up, right? So like if you invested in the top 20 by market cap only, that would mean coin number 20 would be like 0.00003% of your fund. But if you cap the large ones at 10%, it means at least the coin position in number 20 is like 0.4% of your fund, which, although isn't huge, is still large enough for you to attract gains from it as it starts to move up the ranks. So, like, especially, another reason why we did it, like, in terms of analogy, is if you look at, let's say, the S&P 500, there are some standout companies like Apple, Amazon, Google, Microsoft, but none of them are bigger than the other ones by, like, orders of magnitude, which is the case in the cryptocurrency space, right? So like until the cryptocurrency space develops a bit more, like having a pure market share weighted sort of index doesn't really work because of that dominance that stems from the immaturity of the market. So I think that's why the S&P 500 and things like that can work without necessarily capping the funds, whereas we don't think that would have worked in the crypto space.
Definitely.
But there's a cool John Bogle quote, I believe, it's also on our website, that says, don't look for the needle in the haystack, just buy the haystack. And that speaks a lot to what we've been speaking about. You don't need to determine for yourself which particular ICO you think is fantastic, or Moon or 10x or whatever. If it reaches the top 20 coins, you will implicitly hold it by holding C20. And there's no decision-making process that needs to be followed in order for that to be the case. And I think that's just the power of an index fund, which has been proven to be a fantastic investment vehicle.
Yeah, and this is Crypto20. That is a token on the Ethereum network, ERC20, or that's a full coin itself?
ERC20.
Yeah.
Speaking of, actually, so I just wanted to interject really quick. Two things. One, Meredith's power has gone out, so she'll be right back. She's just experiencing some technical difficulties. And then two, one of the questions that we were asked was, well, where do I store my coins in the meantime, given that it's an the C20 token? Given that it's an ERC20, you can store it in any Ethereum-based wallet. So your hardware wallet, like your Ledger or your Trezor, or Exodus, Jack, Parity, any of your Jacks, any of the wallets.
It needs to be an ERC20 wallet that you own as well. So you can't use an exchange wallet. And also, Jax and Exodus don't explicitly support ERC20 tokens either. So you won't be able to see balances of the tokens. We recommend like My Wallet, Iron Token, MetaMask. Those are all pretty great.
Yeah, so like it's not a disaster if you use Exodus or something like that, because you can always export your private key, and then you can like recover your tokens in like another wallet. Well, not recover, I mean like see them and be able to like interact with them. But it is actually a disaster if we like send your tokens to certain exchanges, because then the exchange has the tokens. And usually the sort of interaction with the exchanges is you say, look, this is what happened, and they say, sorry, fuck you. So like, it's like, I'd say like there's a 95% chance you're not going to see your tokens again if we send them to an exchange.
But we've got this is all explained in our how-to guide, and there's a multi-step process where you specify your address and a whole bunch of guides as to what wallets are suitable. And then before actually being able to receive your tokens, you need to lock in your address. That pops up with the dialog box that says, have you checked all these things and made sure it's not an exchange address? So we've really done our best to try to prevent that from happening. I think it was something that plagued a lot of other ICOs, earlier in the year.
People will still use an exchange address. No matter how many safeguards you put against it, there's going to be at least some section of users that send it to an exchange address.
You made a thing now, like, so that not only do you have to put in an address, you have to tick a box which says lock in my Ethereum address, and like it says like, look, you have to have understood what this means. And then it's support tickets being like, please unlock my Ethereum address. I've like put the wrong thing in or whatever. Yeah.
But it's interesting though, because there are loads of new people coming into the space, and I think everyone needs to be a bit understanding. I think the cryptocurrency as a whole is just such a massive paradigm shift from what people are used to. You can't really make analogies that make sense. I mean, you can't really say an ETH address is like a bank account. It's like subtly really pervasive ways. So a lot of it just revolves around educating people that come into the space. And we're hoping to play a pretty big role in that. And we've made quite a lot of effort into putting out a good learn page and putting out a good how-to guide with a whole bunch of resources aggregated together. And anyone can feel free to message us if they have any queries.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that's one of the reasons I'm so bullish about your project, is that I feel like it really appeals to people who want to be into the space but haven't necessarily gone through the process of having an education in it, because it's not the most user-friendly, it's not the most intuitive, and it takes effort. It takes an investment of time and energy in order to effectively get into this space. And so I kind of see, I see Crypto20 or the C20 token as being kind of like a trove that, beginning investors can easily get into, because, I mean, in our Facebook community, a lot of people are familiar with my thoughts on the lack of reading comprehension in the community. You were commenting on the all of the fail safes that you have to make sure that people understand exactly what they're getting into. I mean, I once published an article and then got 10 questions, which were literally like every one of the questions that people asked. It was like, oh, that was answered in like big bold text in the article that I wrote. So yeah, I don't know. It never fails to make me laugh, just how difficult understanding can be to come by, sometimes. And so like I'm really, really glad that you guys are being so detailed and so meticulous with your say your wallet signup, because I took for granted, for example, when I said you could use Exodus, like the fact that, it would hold it, but it's not actually going to display it. So you would then have to export your private key, yada, 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 which is maybe a big knowledge gap for a fair amount of people. Yeah. All right, let's see. Looks like Meredith's still out. She's facing a power outage.
Yeah, I'll expand on what you were saying, Keegan, because I totally agree. It's like the amount of how much they value their time is ridiculous. Like you'll put an article that totally lays it out, but they won't take the time to do it. They'll just instantly write a quick little thing. People don't want to take the time to get informed or to build knowledge. They just want to know, what's the thing that I can do? Please, oh God, tell me, where do I put my money? And when you're trying to suggest, like, it's totally different strokes for different folks if you're going to go to, say, like Omise Go or Quantum or Ethereum. But what I think is just so attractive now is that we have these index funds, and it's like, okay, well, guess what? Here's, like, if you believe in cryptocurrency and blockchain, there's your answer. Like, you don't need to think, you don't need to read a paragraph. I know that's going to take you a long time to do. So just like, this is the spot. If you believe in the tech, here you go. I think it's just like such a nice, easy solution. And especially for myself, I don't know how many questions a day I get just on those topics. So to be like, here's the solution. I don't have to recommend anything. It's just be like, believe in the tech. This is the thing.
Something that makes me a bit concerned sometimes is when I get messages from people being like, but I want to invest $10,000, and then like they like ask a question afterwards which demonstrates like that they have absolutely no understanding how anything works whatsoever. Like they're like I'm not sure if some of these people even know what cryptocurrencies are, or like if they exist. Like they just kind of want to give us like US dollars or like whatever their local currency is. And then like when I'm like, no, sorry, like you have to invest in Bitcoin, Ethereum, or Litecoin, they're like, oh, what's that?
People a lot of people coming into the space basically just want to come into the space and have cryptocurrency magically transform their $10,000 into $100,000.
Yeah.
And to be fair, for those people, Crypto20 is a great investment. It's a great way to do exactly that, at least potentially speaking. But yeah, it's not the easiest space for people to understand in general, but it's so alluring. There's there's so many people who just are seeing 7,000% returns on Ethereum, or all these huge returns, and so they then just want to go into the space and don't really want to put in the effort of trying to understand it.
Ludicrous not to compare it to the .com bubble where people are just getting in for greed and the insane gains. And, they're like, okay, like for here, they're like, oh, I know it's a cryptocurrency, so I'm going to get in. Whereas back then it was like, okay, it's a .com, so I'm going to get in. And, we've already talked about this, but there's going to be a lot of failures. A lot of people are just looking to ride the hype, ride the cash. That's why we have BitConnect. And, it's going to take a couple of years until we start to wash out and start to see some real quality in the space. But I think, it's just going to take time, and that's quite all right.
I just know it's started to get light outside.
Animals.
That's crazy. That's dedication, though, man.
One thing that I think is quite interesting is like a lot of the confusion people have about cryptocurrencies is ironically just confusion about currency. So like, people have taken currency for granted for so long. People are like, okay, so like, what gives Bitcoin value? And I'm like, what gives the US dollar its value? Like, do you understand that in the first place? So like the principles are the same. It's just that people have grown up with fiat currency, so they don't question it, right? So it's only when something like Bitcoin comes along do they realize that the underlying principles that their whole economic lives have been based on, they haven't known the answers to. So like, it's that sort of, it's like a bit of an awakening experience to realize that all currency works like that.
Totally. And I feel like it's pretty scary for a lot of people because they've been blindly putting trust into some centralized system. And now it's like you have your own private key. You lose this key, you're screwed. I think that's really scary for a lot of people. As much as it's empowering, there's also this side of fear for a lot of people. So I think until people get familiar with the process, it becomes a little more user-friendly. Yeah, it's like I said before, it's going to take a while, but I agree. The U.S. dollar is backed by less than Bitcoin. That's for damn sure.
100%.
Yeah, it is pretty intimidating. I remember when I first got into the crypto game, and I'm even a tech guy, man. I've been in the IT field for like 22 years. I was nervous as hell. My first transaction, because I read first, I actually did a little bit of research. I'm not a dumbass, so, I read about the dangers on how to safely and properly do a transaction, and I was like scared to death, man. I was like, oh, what if I make a mistake and all my money's gone? And it seems so easy to like, mistake one wallet for another or whatever, before you know or have a good understanding of it. It's pretty intimidating. There's definitely a learning curve. And I agree, like you said, this is a fantastic way for people to simply invest in the market, as even just to support it. This is something that my dad could even figure out how to do. Then he can hold the top 20 in a single token. I mean, he's totally interested in getting in it. I think I'm going to steer him towards Crypto20 for that reason, because he can't keep track of every single one. That'd be a disaster.
I've helped my mom invest in a couple of different cryptocurrencies, and she hasn't done anything since the initial couple of investments. But once she moves back to New Zealand and is no longer a U.S. resident, I intend to get her to invest in Crypto20. So, yeah, that's
Yeah, being able to recommend something to your friends and family is generally a pretty solid indicator.
Yeah, I'm going to have to tap out now, guys. I'm passing out.
Yeah, so any last questions, I think we'll head up.
Yeah, we can let you guys go. So.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks so much for having us on. Yeah, guys, please feel free to check out our homepage, crypto20.com, and you can check the Slack out. You're more than welcome there. All right.
Yeah, I highly recommend that Slack. It's hands down the best Slack out there, because I'm involved in a lot of them, and these are the guys that are going to be answering your questions. Not just some guy that's getting paid in a few tokens to be the social dude, in the Slack. So.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it, guys. Have a good one.
Yeah, we might have kept them up a little bit past their bedtime. I mean, it was like, what, 5:30 there now?
Well, the sun is going up, 6 a.m. You're saying.
Yeah, it's later. It's like 6:30, I think.
Jesus fucking Christ. Poor guys. Troopers.
Yeah.
That's a pretty standard crypto bedtime in all reality, though.
Yeah, definitely. I'm going to go ahead and kill the live feed, though.
Okay. All right. Good chatting, guys.